The Kol Battleship, the Coalition's answer to the question of how much damage can we pump out in a minute and still live to fight again. It is the TEC's frontline capital ship sporting many offensive abilities and able to engage and destroy single targets. However, it lacks the means of defending itself from strikecraft and corvettes, and if it loses its antimatter pool, can quickly become a floating brick that can be cornered and destroyed. Important to mention for this overview, I will not be talking about any additional items the ship can get, such as the autoloader or Gauss slugs, as I want to analyze the default ship without any additional upgrades. This also goes for no research that would improve weapons or survivability. So, with that in mind, let's dive into the Kol Battleship. For survivability, the Kol has a durability of 500 and starts off at level 1 with 2650 shield, 2420 armor with a strength of 105, and 3750 hull points. Like all capital ships, it gains health stats with each level, capping out at level 10 with 5035 shields, 4120 armor with a strength of 150, and 6755 hull points. For a ship made explicitly for the front line, these numbers, excluding the armor, sound a little low, and through a quick comparison, this is actually true. Compared to the other TEC capital ships, the Kol has the highest amount of armor points by a decent margin and also the highest strength. This is really good because the way damage is calculated, armor negates damage as a function of its strength. So having high armor points and strength is a good thing to have. For shields, it falls in the middle of TEC capital ships, having significantly more than the Sova and the Marza, but less than the Akan and the Dunov. Still not bad for an offensive capital ship. Hull points is another story, as the Kol actually ranks the second lowest of all TEC capital ships, only having slightly more than the Dunov. Overall, the armor of the Kol should absorb most damage anyway, so having slightly lower shields and hull does not make this a deal breaker in my opinion. Comparing the Kol to the Advent Radiance and the Vasari Kortul, we see a similar story, having significantly more armor and strength while having the lowest amount of shields. It is also interesting to note that the Kol does have more hull points than the Kortul, but after about level 5 it begins to fall behind. Not by much, and experienced commanders with a bit of planning will render this small difference inconsequential during a pitched battle. When compared to the other TEC capital ships, the Kol has the second highest DPS, being quite comparable to all the other ships. However, high damage doesn't mean anything if you have low piercing, and comparing that across the TEC capital ships we can see a clear divergence. The Kol ranks second for piercing, having a quarter less than the Marza, but has a great bit more than the other ships. While its DPS isn't the highest, its relatively high piercing allows it to maximize its DPS against armored targets. Compared to the Radiance and the Devastator, the Kol has the lowest DPS, falling quite far behind both the other factions' main battleships. For piercing, the Kol is only slightly better than the Radiance, but significantly lower than the Devastator. While it does have a higher piercing than the Radiance balances this out with much more DPS. Unlike the other factions, the Kol does not have any strikecraft and no point defense guns, making it especially vulnerable to enemy strikecraft and corvettes. So, while the Kol does have good armor and DPS, it needs to be escorted in order to prevent it from being swarmed. When looking at the speed characteristics of the Kol, it falls average when compared to the other TEC capital ships, and average looking at acceleration as well. Given its high armor and damage abilities, this is not a bad place for the Kol to be. Comparing the Kol's max speed to the Radiance and Kortul, it is on par and the differences between the three are quite negligible. However, the Kol is much slower when accelerating, rendering it a little sluggish when changing positions when compared to the other factions. However, where the Kol really shines is its heavily offensive-oriented abilities. Starting off with Experimental Beam, a single target ability that, at level 1, dishes out 250 damage per second for 4 seconds. With a relatively high piercing of 500, this ability is ideal for dealing with armored targets that are a priority, such as enemy capital ships or support cruisers that need to be eliminated quickly. With a range of 10,000, it can allow the Kol to get in the first shot during engagements and soften up targets before the main battle begins. Across the 3 ability levels, the damage increases by 25 per second per level and reduces the cooldown by 2 seconds for each level increase. And with such a short cooldown, it is essential to keep this ability firing whenever possible. Antimatter cost also jumps by 5 for every level, so keeping the ship fueled with antimatter is a must. The Kol's second ability is Fusillade, a self-buffing ability that provides bonuses to weapon reload speed and tracking speed, directly increasing the ship's DPS and giving it the ability to deal with small craft and corvettes. Level 1 provides a weapon reload reduction of 15%. 30% at level 2, and 45% at level 3. Tracking speed is increased by 50%, 100%, and 150% per level. The cooldown, antimatter cost, and duration are unaffected by level and are 90 seconds, 75 antimatter, and 50 seconds respectively. While the duration of the ability does not increase, 50 seconds is a long time for a ship ability, and the ship being able to potentially increase its DPS by 45% can change the course of battles. The weapon tracking can provide a solution against enemy corvettes in a pinch. For its third ability, the Kol has the Adaptive Force Field. This ability provides a straight damage reduction to all incoming damage. Starting from level 1, it provides 15% reduction, 30% at level 2, and 45% at level 3. Cooldown, antimatter, and duration all stay the same at 75 seconds, 75 antimatter, and 45 seconds respectively. This ability also prevents phase missiles from bypassing the Kol's shields, which makes it particularly effective against the Vasari and can make the Kol a bullet sponge during engagements. Finally, available at level 6, the Kol gets Finest Hour, an ability that not only increases the Kol's splash damage, but also decreases ability cooldowns and increases antimatter, armor, and hull regen, allowing it to keep the Kol in the fight and keep blasting its secondary abilities. Specifically, it provides a 50% splash damage to all attacks and regens 5 antimatter per second, along with regenning 20 armor and 20 hull per second. It also reduces ability cooldowns by 20%. With a cost of 100 antimatter and a cooldown of 240 seconds, timing this ability can be crucial to winning engagements. To maximize its potential, it is best to use it after using the Experimental Beam or Fusillade, as Finest Hour will decrease their cooldown and regenerate the lost antimatter. A duration of 60 seconds means that this ability will restore a total of 300 antimatter and 1200 armor and hull. During a battle, however, that is not a lot of hull or armor to have restored, especially if it is done over 60 seconds, so don't count on it to miraculously save the Kol in a losing fight. But when timed properly, the ability cooldown reduction and antimatter regen can keep the Kol pumping out damage. That is, if the antimatter is not stolen by the enemy, or if Hashiko cruisers are not present. Overall, the Kol has the potential to deal a lot of damage and change the course of its battles. The Experimental Beam and Fusillade provide the Kol with excellent damage potential both in the way of focusing down a single target and providing a barrage of fire against multiple targets. Adaptive Force Field give the Kol the ability to negate some enemy damage, and Finest Hour allows it to continue its unrelenting barrage against enemy targets by regenning its antimatter and reducing ability cooldowns. However, its lack of point defense can make it susceptible to fast-moving ships, so providing it with an anti-strike and anti-corvette escort is a must. Furthermore, this ship needs to be constantly fed antimatter, as if it stops using its abilities, its DPS can become quite mediocre when compared to the other faction's main battleships. Anyway, that's all for the TEC Kol Battleship. Let me know what you thought of the video. This is my first time making a long-form video, so any feedback is appreciated to make future videos better. I plan on going through the capital ships in order of class, so my next planned video will be on the Advent Radiance and the Vasari Kortul after that. But I would be happy to review another ship sooner if it is requested in the comments section. If you liked the video, please like, and if you like the analysis and would like more, consider subscribing. Anyway, that's all for now. See you in the next one.